We're here with my friend Dragos, who is very much into the crypto world. He's an expert in the business of cryptocurrency and investing in virtual coins. And this is a very, very interesting market. And I asked him to set aside a few minutes to tell us a bit about his story. You know, how he started out with crypto, what were his objections, and the top tips that everyone should know before starting out with crypto. Dragos, how are you?
Very good, man. Very good. Thanks for having me on your show.
So, how did you
Thanks.
start with crypto? I know you were doing online marketing before investing.
Yeah, so I did a few things online, different online businesses, but basically I had a friend that had told me about Bitcoin ever since 2014. He was crazy about Bitcoin, even has like a huge Bitcoin sticker on his
Mm-hmm.
living room. I lived with him for like 6 months, so I saw it every day,
Yeah.
but somehow I never looked into it. Neither did I have the capital. I mean, Bitcoin back then was probably like 1,000 something dollars. I can't even remember, but I never really looked into it, never really understood it. But this guy was like very devoted to the idea behind Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
So about this time last year, like June of 2017, I was very like deep into my social media marketing work. I didn't focus on anything else. I was working like a maniac.
Mm-hmm.
And one day he writes to me, he's like, "Man, this entire ICO thing is crazy. People are making so much money. It's so easy to approach the founders. You should definitely get in touch with them
Mm-hmm.
and work with them." And I had no idea what he was talking about. I had no idea what crypto was, what ICO meant, and all that. So I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll research it." Didn't do anything for like 4 days.
Mm-hmm.
He writes to me after 4 or 5 days, like, "So did you look into it?" I'm like, "Okay, I'll look into it now." This guy is like a really good friend, but also like a mentor to me. So having a lot of respect for him, when he said, "Have you looked into it?" I realized I didn't look into it. I was like, "Okay, might as well do it." So I did some research, tried to understand what exactly is happening. Back then, all these projects, there were some websites that were showing all the projects. They each had Slack groups, like the community would gather in a Slack group, and
Mm-hmm.
the founders were there. Like you could always talk to them. I basically didn't really understand anything of what was happening, but I got yeah, go for it.
I'm sure that a lot of people listening in, you know, they're not very familiar with the crypto world, and if you could share a bit with everyone
Yeah,
listening, what's an ICO, what's a Slack group?
yeah. You're right. Got a bit ahead of myself. So
No problem.
basically, an ICO stands for initial coin offering. It's kind of like a play on the initial public offering, but
Mm-hmm.
instead of
Mm-hmm.
giving equity, you're giving out tokens. There's a lot of legal complexity around that because a lot of the tokens are actually securities, but because it's not a regulated space yet, we're just going to consider them tokens.
Okay.
But what people need to understand is that when you invest in a company, you get tokens which legally, when you invest and you sign the disclaimers, they're actually basically not really worth much, right? They're worth as much as the token is has a value, right? But
Mm-hmm.
you're not getting equity in the actual company. So the company is still owned 100% by the people that are doing the ICO or however
Mm-hmm.
they structure
Mm-hmm.
it, and then they also give you the token. So it's kind of like raising money, creating value out of nothing.
Mm.
And it became a really popular way of raising money because it's very easy. There's no regulation. If you just have crypto, if you have Ether, you can just send the money across, and people raise funds. And it became very popular. But obviously, as soon as something becomes very popular, you can raise a lot of money without regulation.
Mm-hmm.
Things can get out of hand as well, which is kind of what happened pretty much in the past year to a
Mm-hmm.
certain
Mm-hmm.
extent. So the point is that ICOs, they so each project had like a certain cap that they wanted to raise, and because it was so new, you would invest in the ICO, and then when it hit an exchange, so there are crypto exchanges where you can literally, I put my coin, let's say ABC coin, on the exchange, I sell it for
Right.
Ethereum,
Mm-hmm.
so and I get profits because usually what happened was as soon as a project went on an exchange, its value would go up,
Okay.
right? The way they work is you don't necessarily need to do an ICO to create a new coin. Anyone can create a new coin.
Mm-hmm.
There are coins that have just been mined from the beginning, like
Yeah.
Bitcoin. and there are coins that have had crowd sales, like even Ethereum. The reason I mentioned, and I'll finish this, the reason I mentioned Ethereum is because it is the second largest cryptocurrency, and because it has a smart contracts platform behind it. That's what actually facilitated this crowdfunding model, because the smart contracts automatically govern you getting the token. So you send one Ether, a smart contract, which is like a piece of software written on the blockchain, will give you back the tokens, and you know for sure that will happen.
Yeah, I think we're getting a bit too technical right now for
Yeah.
for our audience. Um, what I was very interested to know was like, what was the turning point for you? Like, what clicked and you said, okay, I need to study this and I need to get really good at this.
Yeah. So there are 2 points. Basically, I started doing research on ICOs, didn't really understand much, but I did get in touch with a few founders. My point of view was, how can I give value to them? Because the whole process was so raw, it was just unreal. Like, projects were raising $50 million, $100 million in 90 seconds, like
Wow.
unheard of ever in the history of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of them were just raising the money by having a white paper, which is like a scientific paper that showcases the project.
Right.
And they basically didn't have anything built, like no product, nothing, not even a beta, right? They just had ideas and people from the crypto community that backed those ideas. They had credibility. And they had the entire, when people see that they can make money, people throw money at the projects. So I saw that I could add a lot of value. And initially, my idea was, because I saw they didn't do Facebook ads, was to run Facebook ads for them. So I got in touch with 4 projects. 3 of them, the founders replied to me and agreed to get on a Skype call with me. Out of those 3 calls, the first one I got on was with a guy from District 0x, which was a very, very respected ICO back then. And long story short, I was pitching them for Facebook ads. He told me they're kind of frowned upon in the community.
Okay.
And it was just like a crazy coincidence where I told him, by the way, I saw this project had like a very nice explainer video, like, like those animated videos done in like After Effects or like, graphics.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I told him, this video had like, this company had like a really nice video, but I had no intention behind it. And he's like, yeah, I mean, I guess we should do one as well. And he told me how much those guys paid for it. And when I heard how much they paid for that video, I was like, whoa, there's a huge opportunity. So basically, because I have copywriting skills, I wrote the script, I found the team, charged them less than those guys charged, but still quite a bit for me to make enough cash on it. Did a really nice video. Everything worked out perfectly. And basically, they paid me for the video in their token. So I got their token, right? So when they went through their ICO and they released the tokens, basically I got whatever. I don't even remember how much of those tokens there were. Now, what happened after was I had no idea how this thing worked. Like, absolutely no idea.
So would you say that it was like one of those things that, the things just fall into place and you just know and you feel like it's the right thing for you?
Yeah, I didn't even like it's one of those things where I don't know, it's like intuition, I'd never done the things that I had done up until that point in my businesses kind of led me to that point in the sense that it combined a lot of the strengths that I had. I knew about video production from the stuff that I was doing before. I knew about copywriting from my work in social media marketing. I didn't know this would be possible, but I acted really fast. I just took action without caring about I cared about the result. I never expected it to be that good, but it just all kind of fell in place. And from there on, everything exploded.
That is so powerful, and I'd love to develop a bit more on this idea of intuition. We actually talk quite a bit about it on my other podcast, on the Personal Development Through Martial Arts podcast. What I'm a bit worried about right now is this idea that, people listening in, who have been kind of in contact with the crypto world say, you know what, I'm going to quit my business or I'm going to quit my job and just going to focus on crypto, right? Which of course is an option, right? But I'd love it if you could share with us, who do you feel this is for, right? What would be wise and what should people avoid when starting out and investing in crypto?
Sure. So who it's for? I mean, it's really for anyone in the sense that there are no barriers.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do choose to go into it, you should really know what you go into.
Mm-hmm.
Because one phrase that you'll hear and kind of everyone throws it around, everyone knows it, but not everyone actually acts upon it, is don't invest more money than you're willing to lose.
Mm-hmm.
I really assume that you're going to lose all the money that you invest because
Mm-hmm.
it is a risky market. It's very volatile. I
Yeah.
personally don't think you can lose all your money if you invest in good projects.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
I've seen so many people that just get greedy and invest in shitty projects. There's no other way to call them.
Yeah.
And they can lose all their money. Like I've seen that, and I've seen it from very high profile people that were pitching me ICOs that I knew they actually went to zero. I got pitched for an ICO by someone that we both know
Mm-hmm.
when the ICO was $15. The coin was $15.
Yeah.
He pitched he got a lot of people into it. The coin is now worth 9 cents.
Wow.
And I knew it was a scam.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
was convinced about it. Like I would have never invested in that.
Yeah.
So these kind of things can happen. So you need to be very, very careful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How would
That
you?
being said,
How
yeah.
how would people know? Because I'm sure we don't have enough time to cover all these aspects. But what if like I'm starting out, right? What should I do to know the difference between a good project and a project that will probably go to go to zero?
I mean, look, it's all depending on who you ask. They're all kind of like pyramid schemes
Mm-hmm.
to a certain. Not really, but a lot of the value right now is based off of speculation, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That being said, what I recommend is infiltrating all this. So crypto is very Telegram centric. Telegram is this messaging app, kind of like WhatsApp,
Yeah.
that kind of exploded with crypto. There are a ton of communities on Telegram. What I recommend is network with as many people as possible, and don't just invest in a coin. Don't invest in a coin because people expect it to go higher. Invest in a coin that has strong fundamentals. Strong fundamentals means a strong team behind it, which, okay, maybe if you get into the crypto space, you can't tell what a strong team means, but there are a lot of influencers, a lot of rankings, people that have spreadsheets and classify the projects by percentages, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's like 8 or so influencers, like even more. They all have their spreadsheets. And like the top projects, you'll see them in different, like let's say you have 8 influencers, each one with a top 5 ICO. You'll
Mm-hmm.
see like the best ones in like 2 or 3 of those rankings because everything is subjective, obviously, if you do a spreadsheet with random percentages,
Mm-hmm.
but they are based off of something. Team,
Mm-hmm.
if they have an existing product, as I told you, the market is changing very fast. Like what was working 2, 3 months ago is not working now. What I tell you now on this podcast probably won't be valid
Valid,
2, 3
right?
months from now. So we
Yeah.
might have to do another podcast. But
So if you're watching this, check the publishing date, guys.
yeah.
Check when this was published.
So things move very quickly. If before you could raise some money just with a white paper and a concept,
Mm-hmm.
now people expect you to have more than that.
Right.
Before, people could raise a lot of money for an app, just for an app. Now people are looking towards blockchain projects.
Mm-hmm.
So something that is like an ecosystem, right? Like an operating system for everything crypto related.
Right.
So things change very quickly. You need to basically get in touch with all these communities, speak to as many people as you can. And if you're not like, if you don't read enough and you don't understand the technology yourself, which to be honest, I don't understand it that well. I understand it better than your average person, but there are people that know much more than me. But I always ask people around me, people that I trust. And that way, I'm sure that I never invest in something that could be a scam or doesn't have good short-term and long-term prospects.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So education is very, very important, right? It's not like, oh, you know what? I just have this cash lying around that I don't know what to do with. Let me just buy some Bitcoin or let me just buy some Ethereum. You really need to treat it like you're studying for university or for a degree, right?
I mean,
Even like,
it really depends on your strategy. It really depends on your strategy. There's ways. I mean, there's riskier routes that you can take where you can multiply your cash exponentially, or there are safer ways to do it. If you want to start investing in ICOs and basically flipping ICOs, which means you invest in an ICO, you sell it quite quickly, and the money you put into the next project, or maybe you hold some of it, whatever. It's pretty much what I've been doing. Then you really need to know what you're doing. If you want to invest in There's also trading, which a lot of people do, but the market is so volatile that nobody really knows how it goes.
Yeah.
It's very hard to know.
Yeah.
And the third option is just if someone wants to hold crypto, because look, bottom line, extrapolating from all this, the technology, once you understand it, I'm convinced this technology will change the world forever. Like it's insane. It's genius. The technology is genius. So if you invest in the top projects right now and you just hold your money there, look at the total value of the market right now, which is $400 billion, I think, at this one time. It was as high as $800 billion. That's nothing in the macro sense.
Right.
It can get very easily to 5 to 10 trillion in a few years, which means a 10x from where it is now. So just by holding the top coins, think Bitcoin, Ether, and there are a few others, which, safest bet is that they're going to do really well. Even in that way, you're probably going to multiply your portfolio just by holding those coins, not doing anything else. So there are different approaches that you can adopt.
Cool. So I asked you to to prepare think of a few things that you wanted to share with our audience. What would be like from that whole list your top 5 tips for somebody who's just starting out with crypto?
All right, let me look through them because I wrote them down. Just there's so much stuff to say about crypto.
Right?
Yeah. So safety is clearly number one. Safety in all terms. So what you need to understand is that technology is very raw still. It's not like you open a bank account and you know your funds are safe.
Right.
Right. I don't want to go into all the details, but basically, unless you have something like this, a hardware wallet, and even this is not 100% safe, you should not hold, you should always doubt that your funds are still in your wallet. There are blog posts where you can find out ways. Using a VPN is a must. Using strong passwords. There's a lot of stuff that you have to do, but basically, if you don't have a hardware wallet, which has your wallet will have a private key, a key of a ton of digits that nobody can really crack. This thing holds the key physically inside the wallet, and it's protected by other means as well from someone accessing it. If you don't have this, you're very vulnerable. And there's been so many hacks. Quite recently, one of the biggest influencers in crypto, he didn't have a hardware wallet. He stored his private key on a file, an encrypted file in Evernote.
Wow.
And someone that was following him hacked into his Gmail account through his backup account, which was from his university. From his Gmail account, went into his Evernote, cracked the file, went into his wallet, and stole about $1.8 million worth of tokens.
Wow.
This is one of the biggest influencers in crypto who didn't have a hardware wallet.
That's very interesting.
And even that is not 100% secure. So you really need to be careful and read online about all the measures that you can take.
It's funny how, it's the same thing with wealth accumulation, but it's like if you're buying gold, you still need to kind of, store it somewhere that you know that it's safe, right? Instead of, having all these people know who you are and then you're putting all your wealth in your apartment. Of course, it's going to be broken into, right? Yeah, very interesting. But I think it's just like a much faster pace, just like you mentioned. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so safety.
Safety, read about it as much as you can. It's everything. I would say regulation is a big one. Depending on who you ask, I'm not going to go into the philosophy behind crypto is very interesting. And the decentralization that it brings. But that being to be regulated at some point, because right now it's going a bit crazy and there are a lot of scams and all this stuff that I told you about. So bear in mind that regulation will come at some point, and depending on who you ask, the market might either go down for a while or it might go up. But for sure, things are going to be more standardized. So keep an eye out for that. And if you are invested, make sure to take profits or have enough cash on hand to account for that, because it can hit at any point in time, and everyone kind of sees it as the point where governments will kind of try to restrict people's access to crypto, which might have I think a short-term negative effect on crypto. But if you don't have cash out and your crypto goes down, you're not going to want to sell it. So you're basically going to have that locked somewhere online, and you're going to be very reticent to using it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Cool.
Um,
So regulation, yeah.
yeah, I would say bear in mind that it's all cycles, right? So it's all a big cycle. Market goes up, market goes down. Only it's much more exaggerated than it would normally be in any kind of other industry. Case in point, right? Bitcoin, $20,000 in December, went down to $6,000. So that's what, like a 70% drop, right? From its all-time high. Now imagine all the people that bought it when it was going up from 8K all the way to 20K.
Yeah.
If they sold, they probably made a loss if they didn't hold their Bitcoin. Imagine if you're that's your first experience with crypto, you put 20K into something and it gets to 6K. I never invested my own money because I started earning in crypto straight away. So for me, it's still kind of like a game at a certain level, you know?
I love that.
But people that actually invested money, that's painful. So be aware that it's always cycles. Market goes down, market will always climb up. Best example is these past 3 months when the whole market went from 800 million market cap to 270 million at some point, the entire market. People like me, I didn't really sell anything because I knew the market would come back up, and now it's showing signs that it's recovering. So never, it always comes back. It's always in cycles. And the biggest lesson on that is if you hear there's an all-time high, do not buy it. Never buy on the way up. Like all the people that bought in, because everyone gets euphoric. Oh, Bitcoin's 16K, 17K. Everyone's like, oh my God, we're gonna be so rich. Everyone keeps buying in, but the market just cannot sustain that. It's gonna have to go down. I'm happy when it goes down because it brings everything back to normal. So just be aware that there's cycles all the time. Don't buy at the top. Always buy at the bottom if you can time it. But that's a different conversation.
I love that. Yeah. No, I was actually talking with a friend the other day who's also an investor, and he was describing the feeling that the whole situation when he just saw, because he invested his own money, right, just like you mentioned, but he saw his money going down and he said, oh my God, what am I gonna do, right? But I think the way that you see it, it's a lot more freeing, and it's a better mentality to be on the upside. When you just see it as a game, like what, let's just.
But I'll tell you what, you always make mistakes. I've made a few. Probably won't have time to go into details. But one of the mistakes that I made was I didn't cash out at the high in December, and then it started going down. And I mean, I cashed out, so I can. And it hurt me to sell Bitcoin that cheap or Ether that cheap, but I needed the money, right? But had I cashed out at 20K more, I could have, one, had more than enough money in my bank account so that I don't worry about when it goes down.
Yeah.
And two, I could have bought on the dip when Bitcoin went to 6K. And I could have had much more now when it goes up. But because I didn't have that safety, whenever the crypto market was going down, I was like, okay, I'm going to make a conscious loss right now and sell at a value that I think is lower than what I think it can get to. But at least I know I'm going to have money in the bank and I won't care if it goes lower. But I know I'm losing money. So, the key, the lesson that I learned, cash out when it's at a high, because money in the bank is money in the bank. You need to be diversified. That's key. And then you'll see what can happen. But if you're not in that position, then you end up in that situation that you described where you're like, oh shit, my 20K is now 6K. What do I do?
Yeah.
And it's very hard psychologically to get past that.
Awesome. So always buy when the market is at a low, or try to do that as much as possible, and sell when it's at a high.
It's very hard to time them, but generally, that's what you want to do.
Awesome.
You want two more?
Yes, please.
If we have time, I'm not sure.
Yeah, we have time.
I would say, this is a very interesting point. A lot of people calculate, and there's two different schools of thought here. A lot of people look at dollar terms all the time because everything is so volatile. People calculate in dollars. But when you invest in ICOs, you invest with Ethereum.
Right.
And now with a few other coins as well. There's two different ways of looking at it. People calculate the multiple on their investment in dollar terms.
Right.
Most of the time. So let's say I invest in a project. The value of the coin is $1. Right? It gets to $10. People would say they made a 10x profit. But if Ether went up 5 times in that period of time, and you invested Ether, you're actually only up 2x, because if you held that Ether, you'd be up 5x, right? A lot of people denominate their portfolios in dollars, and they think about it in dollar terms, because there's so many variables that at least you have a common. I'm more of the idea that if I invested dollars, right, I'm gonna look at dollars. If I go and buy a coin now with my dollars for my bank account, I'm gonna think in dollars. But if I have Ether and that Ether has a value, but I invest in Ether, I always think, okay, I put 10 Ether into this project. What was the price correlated to Ether? Okay, it was 0.1, whatever.
Right.
Got to 0.5, I made 5x in Ether. Why do I think that way? There's two different schools of, because there's so many people, outside investors, venture capital firms that are coming in, traditional money. People start thinking in dollars. Projects start denominating in dollars.
Right.
But the early projects, and even some now, ask for the money in Ether, and everything is reported to Ether. I think in Ether and Bitcoin, because long term my goal is to make as much Ether and Bitcoin and the top coins as possible, right? I don't think in dollar terms, because I know that long term, whatever will happen, their value will be much higher than it is now.
Of course, yeah, it's the same. Like, yeah, guys, for everyone listening in, we actually live in Bucharest, Romania. So when you buy a house here or you rent an apartment, you always see the price not in our national currency. You see it in euros, and sometimes with some exceptions in dollars. Right? It's the same idea, because our Romanian currency is a bit more volatile, and euros and dollars tend to be more stable and be more valuable. So people, just to feel safer or to have this safety, they want you to pay them for real estate in currencies, like, for external currencies. So I see it's the same game with
yeah, only it's like 10 times more volatile.
Yeah. But I see your point. I mean, in the future, I think we're moving towards virtual coin a lot more than we did, because in fact, what is money? It's the same thing. It doesn't really exist if you think about it. It's just a piece of paper, right? It's just a value that you give it. Yeah, so I totally see.
Yeah, people need to trust that thing, whether it's paper money or a virtual coin, has value. If people stop believing in it, then it stops having value.
Exactly, it's done.
Only the value in traditional fiat currencies is given by central banks, whereas here, value is given by
the market.
Everyone.
Yeah,
which is much more progressive, in my opinion.
Awesome. So what would be number 5 for you?
Number 5, I would say, I won't go into detail on this, but the whole ICO investment side of things has changed every 2 to 3 months. It just changes completely.
Okay.
Before, everyone could throw as much as they wanted to, and there would be, the sum would be filled up in 90 seconds, and some people got in, a lot of people didn't get in. Then companies started doing whitelisting, where you had to give your passport info and all that, and you had a whitelisted account, but they divided the entire sum of the raise by the number of people that registered to invest, so you could only invest a limited amount. What it's migrated towards a lot recently is pools. So a lot of the people that are connected with projects, they go in on the pre-sale. So early on, they secure an allocation. Let's say, okay, we're going to give you guys 5,000 Ether to invest in our project. And then they have a small community of 200, 300 people. Some have thousands.
You kind of lost me from the first 2 sentences.
What, with the pooling?
Yeah, you just become super technical, and what would be the principle, the concept that you're sharing?
Yeah, okay. So the concept is that you need to be connected to have the opportunity to invest.
Okay.
At this moment in time, because you can't just invest as an individual, or it's very hard to, unless you're very well connected.
Yes.
And there are groups of people, either VC firms, pooling groups, that have very deep connections in crypto, that can raise the funds, let's say, for these projects. And if you're not in touch with those people, then you don't have the opportunity to invest. To put it as simply as I can.
I love
so it's
that.
always in connections, in every industry, right? So the key is, what I'm doing is I'm going to a lot of conferences. I offer value as well. Like I provide services for crypto companies,
Mm-hmm.
marketing services. So I can bring that to the table and in exchange get the opportunity to invest. Because it all goes in layers, right? Like the shitty projects,
Yeah.
they're still open to everyone. But the better the project, the more closed it is to investment because people don't want to put it out to everyone. Very rarely do they want to do that. They'll choose strategic investors, and by the time that they've raised all the money and you hear about the project, all the money has been raised and you can't get in. And those are like the really, really good projects that will like generate significant returns.
It reminds me of what Robert Kiyosaki was saying in one of his books. I think it was an investment book. He was saying he was sharing the exact same principle for not just investing in the stock market, but in real estate and everywhere. You find the best deals by being in the best networks of people.
Yeah.
Right. So it's really about creating connection and becoming a social person and being cool, offering value. And yeah, I love that principle, and I think it applies to anything you're doing, right?
Yeah, what I would recommend is don't waste time on LinkedIn. Don't waste time on just stay on Telegram. Everything in crypto happens on Telegram.
How would you waste
90% of
time on
things.
LinkedIn? Like, where would people waste their time?
As in, I just put blockchain or crypto something in my LinkedIn title, and I get connection like random connection requests from everyone and messages and stuff. It's just a lot of noise.
Yeah,
Whereas on Telegram, if you join the relevant groups, you can kind of tell who the connected people are, and you can start seeing how you can offer them value and who you should connect with.
I love
Telegram
that.
is one way, and then conferences is the other one. If you hit the biggest conferences, then you'll meet a ton of people there.
Mm-hmm.
And even there, it's like, I just went to Dubai for like a very big conference, and ticket was $1,000 for 2 days. Like these things are very expensive,
Right.
and even at what can be perceived as a high barrier of entry for a conference, if you just went and cold approached people,
Yeah.
90% chances you would find someone that doesn't know much about crypto, can't really offer you too much value. Like the circles are very
tight.
small.
Yeah. How would somebody get into a tight circle like that?
I mean, a lot of it is timing. A lot of people that got into crypto in like summer last year,
Yeah.
they're the ones who created those groups, and they didn't have to have much because they were all at the beginning, kind of with the journey.
Yeah.
Now it's getting very hard because these groups have gotten very big, and unless you bring something to the table, they're not going to accept you. So I think it's just a progressive effort to get to that group, meet this person, see how you can get to the next one and to the next one.
I was
offering value. So for me, like I offer some services for these companies, and I'm connected to really well-known ICOs. For me, it's easy to get into these groups. For other people, everyone has to find their unique angle. That's the thing, There's no like set formula.
I was watching a video, and guys, you can find it on YouTube. It's Dan Locke's LOK wealth triangle. So what he was saying basically was that first of all, you need to develop high income skills where you're actually able to make a lot of money, like around 10,000. If you're making $10,000 a month, you have a high income skill, right? So from there, you can move on towards investing or building a scalable business, right? And in a sense, that's exactly what you did, because you had these high income skills, right? And you said, look, I can give you value with my superpowers, right? Which was online marketing and video, right? And writing the copywriting. And then people said, yeah, cool, that's great. Here's my value that I can give to you, right? So it was like that kind of an exchange. I'm again, and a lot of people will not listen to this advice, right? Will just
it's
jump
exactly
right
what
in,
happened
right?
to me.
Yeah,
Dude, it's okay. So I make in like if you just strip away the business, what I'm making for the videos, it's very, very high profit margin. And for me, having automated everything, it's not a lot of work for me.
Right.
It's a great business to have. But it got to the point where I knew I could charge maybe 50% more than I'm charging right now for the videos, maybe even more. But I don't want to do it because I realized that if I do it at like a cost that is still significant,
Right.
but I use it to connect with these projects, I make much more money by investing because I get in touch with the founder, I work with them, I bring their vision to life. They love me because I create like an amazing video for them or any other services.
Yeah.
And then I can invest early on in the project, or if they have a connection that I need to connect with, they will not hesitate to recommend me. So I would rather take less now for the video work,
Yes.
just pay for everything and make some decent profit off of it, but use everything for investing because the investment side is like less time and much more upside.
I
And for
love it.
me,
Yeah.
based on
Yeah.
what you said, I'm exactly like that. I do not want to scale the business. I'm not the type like our friend Catalin to like build the biggest agency in the world and have offices everywhere. I'm not like that. Like
That's
I
a great
don't like to
business
work too
also,
much.
right? It's
It's a
just.
great business. It's amazing, but I'm much more on the investment side, right? So you make money when you can generate that money, as you said, when you can make that much money per month, 10K or whatever it is, and then you start investing. And investing is much more like you need to be sophisticated, but it's much more passive and it's less time consuming, but it also brings the returns.
And what I love, this makes me think of a lot of of this idea of knowing what you want and knowing who you are and who you want to be, and it really comes down to trying a lot of things and knowing what you love and where you shine and which areas you shine. And what I loved from Dan's model, and guys, I really recommend you check out the video, was this idea that, look, you have your skills, right? You know that you're good. You know that you can make money with your high income skills. If the business is not working, right? Or if it fails, or if you lose your money investing, you can still go back to your high income skills and make more money if you need it, right? But if you don't have any skills and you start investing already, that could be also like a start, right? It depends on what you love and who you are, also.
And how much money you have.
Yeah.
Of course.
I'm sure that a lot of people listening, will totally ignore this advice that, just invest the money that you can afford to lose. You're just gonna be like, shit, here are my life savings. Let's buy some Bitcoin. Do you know people who did that?
Um, Not really. I mean, I have a really close friend who did basically when we discovered how profitable they are, we eyed a very like legit project. It had the founder of Ethereum as an advisor. Like there was
Ooh.
no way that project wouldn't do well. And he basically, I mean, this guy is well off, not well off, but his family is well off, like
Right.
decent family, right? So it's not like he would have been homeless, but all the stuff, like he was working in London, I think you met him as well when he came to Bucharest, and all the money that he had saved in 3 years working in London, he put into crypto, invested in that project,
Yeah.
but it went up in multiples, and that's what, like, like from much money you have this much, and all of a sudden now when you invest you can throw bigger sums of money, so it's like all exponential. So that was a good play for him. Yeah, it was risky. I mean, it's risky anytime you like put all your savings into something, and I would definitely not recommend you guys do that. This is a very big risk on his side, but it paid off, and it paid off really well.
I
I've
think
heard
like
stories.
I think like coming back to high income skills, if you guys have some money set aside, right? But let's say your business is making a lot of money, right? Or if you're like, if you're starting out, if you're like a bit of a solopreneur right now, a wiser investment would be just becoming better at your craft, learning how to improve your marketing skills or how to sell yourself better than starting to invest in anything for that matter. It's like I think this would be a better fit for a
I think it
business
depends.
owner who has like more money on the side, or somebody who has
Depends
like,
how much money you have and how much you can lose.
yeah,
You can invest
yeah,
as much as you want in crypto, like the returns are still going to be the same.
uh-huh,
But I think for me, and like this was the biggest realization for me. I was struggling in other businesses for like 2 3 years before. I was making
yeah,
good money, but I always went into an industry later than everyone else. Started doing Udemy courses after the platform exploded.
yeah,
Started doing Facebook ads in end of 2016.
yeah,
And like
yeah,
if I was doing
yeah,
Facebook ads in 2013, it would be completely different. Now I hit the wave pretty much almost from the beginning, like the main. It's not even mainstream yet, but like the mainstream wave, right? And I realized timing is everything. And an opportunity like this is not going to come around too often. This is something very unique. And it's still something that before regulation comes later this year or whenever it comes, and before everything gets institutionalized, it's still a big opportunity. Like, like gains like this, people start complaining when they double their money. Like people start like, oh, we only did a 2x. He's like, yeah, it only did a 2x. If you offer anyone in any industry the opportunity to double their money in a month, they will give you the money straight away. So be careful, do your due diligence, never invest more than you're willing to lose, but also be aware that it's a huge opportunity. And if you can couple that, like if you genuinely, for me, I genuinely believe in the technology. So for me, it's very easy to do this because I'm not just investing in like, oh, Bitcoin went up. Oh, let's put some money into it. I understand the technology. I know what it does. I know what every project that I invest in does. So for me, it's like, it's very easy to do it, you know?
Got it. Awesome. Dragos, closing, what would you like to ask everybody listening in? If you had like one question that you wanted people to answer, what would that be?
Or if I wanted to ask them a question.
Yes.
Okay, will I get to see the answers? Like, do you have
Yeah, in the comment section.
Okay, wow. I'd be curious to know what because obviously we didn't go too in depth.
Yeah.
But for the people that don't know anything about crypto, right? This is something very, very interesting for me. And just have like sort of a perception or whatever from friends or from mainstream media. What was your opinion of crypto before listening to this episode? What's your opinion now? And also, if you do some reading, preferably do some reading, find out about it. I'll suggest some material to you, and you can put them in the description.
Yeah.
Tell me what's your opinion after you looked into it and you understand a bit about what the technology does. I'd be really curious because I think people need to be educated on crypto and they need to be educated the right way. So I'm really curious to see where people start from in their current environment and where they end up after a few hours of research.
I love that. Guys, let us know in the comment section, if we gave you some new insights. Let us know what your opinion is on crypto right now, if we gave you some valuable insights, or if you already knew all the stuff that we talked about and you're like, already in this game. Let us know in the comment section. Anyway, we'd love to hear it. And thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you guys next time. Dragos, thank you so much for your time and your insights.
Thanks, man. Been a pleasure.
Likewise.